We're live, so go ahead.
It's not working. There we go.
It takes it. There we go. Yeah. There you go. Hello. Hello, hello.
Hello, friends.
I'm getting echoes. Here we are, WUFO. How's everyone doing?
Good. Yeah.
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm drinking some rosemary tea.
Oh, nice.
With my Spock mug.
Dr. Pepper Zero.
Yeah.
Not
gosh.
natural at all.
They have Dr. Pepper milkshakes at Whataburger in Texas. I don't know if you've heard of that chain or not, but it's very southern and very amazing. I'm gonna go back home for the first time in like half a decade, and it's on the list of things to get. So good.
I don't know how I feel. I love Dr. Pepper and I love a milkshake. And like I'm into a root beer float, but I don't know about Dr. Pepper milkshake.
It's better than it sounds.
I feel like we're still thinking of like weird food combinations. We were just talking about taco pizza, and I think our brains are still or bean pizza. Baked
beans.
Yeah, I was like, what kind of beans? Baked bean pizza. So welcome to the live where we talk about weird food combinations.
It's kind of like a theme. It's kind of it's kind of like one time I drank pickle juice and coffee creamer on stream here. So it's like there is a little bit of trying weird combos, snacks, and
whoa.
Yeah. I don't recommend that, by the way. That was really gross.
There's a cocktail in Africa, which is shocking because it's a hot country that's basically Bailey's ice and like their version of Coca-Cola, like Diet Coke.
Oh, yeah.
I bet that sounds kind of good. It sounds
it's
really
good. You can get it at Disney World at Epcot.
I mean, you could get it anywhere that has Bailey's.
It's true. You don't have to go to Disney World. You can go other places.
Fernet and Coke is another one.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. Has anybody else ever had a purple cow? Do you know that?
No.
It was a children's book, and the nostalgia thing just hit me when I thought of it. It's vanilla ice cream. It's like a float, but it's vanilla ice cream and like Welch's grape juice.
That actually doesn't sound bad. I tried that.
Not. No, it's really it's not terrible. Although
it's like
you could also do it with like grape knee-high, like fizzy grape soda.
Yeah, that's like a grape cream soda.
Yeah, and they used to call it like there's a book called like actually I think it's like Have You Ever Had a Purple Cow? Now I have to go find it.
Garrett, did you find a Berenstain Bears book to?
Oh, I did. I didn't find that.
Oh man, okay. I don't have one on hand either, but
yeah, we were talking about like because we're here with Amanda, and I was listening to your podcast with Steve Berg, and you were talking a lot about your relationship with nostalgia, and some wanting to do some experiments with that, and I was thinking about. I think someone mentioned we should do some bibliomancy with like a nostalgic book, and I thought that would be a good one because it also has the Mandela effect with it, so it already has some kind of like, and it's like for me that book was like really special when I was a kid. I loved all those books. So, but I don't think I forgot to look, but I don't think we have one actually.
Did you ever play the video game? I just watched the video game like yesterday.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There was a Nintendo, like the early one. Like at the same time, there would have been like a Lion King video game.
Oh, I loved the Lion King video game.
Yes,
I remember
was great.
Yeah, that's wild you're mentioning that because I think about that like about once a month for some reason. I just have this really vivid memory of like eating the big worms or whatever, the grub.
Yeah.
That part of the video game. I love that. game.
The wildebeest jump one is the one that sticks in my head because I had such a hard time with that part of the level, and I
had to make my mom do it. I would like sit there and cry, and so like, it was the Lion King, and I'm desperate now to get it again to see if I, now being my mom's age that she probably was playing those video games for me at, I wonder now if I could beat it or if I would have to be like, oh God, I'm gonna disappoint the children. I guess we all die here. I don't know. Ooh, so sorry. It was that and there was an X-Men game where you could pop around as Kurt, and the Berenstain Bears game, and that is what I remember. But I also grew up in Ohio, so we had Cedar Point, which has a whole Berenstain Bear section, or they did. They don't exist anymore.
That is.
I feel like
cool.
Theme parks would definitely be a good place for nostalgia as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I went to like when you grow up in Florida, you go like theme parks are like you go to all of them. Like all of we used to have weird ones too. We had this theme park called Boardwalk and Baseball, which was like I think it was like the Toronto Blue Jays or something. They had their spring training stadium there in wherever this was outside of Orlando. And so like you would go to this like old timey like 1900s, like people were riding those bicycles with like the giant wheel in the front, and, you know, straw boating caps and stuff. And they had like old timey roller coasters. And then at night at the end, you would go into the stadium and watch a baseball game, which was actually, it was awesome to be perfectly honest.
I want to go to that theme park. That's the holidays. The holiday one. Do you know? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? They have, they have Thanksgiving, and then they have Christmas. I've seen it on TikTok. It must exist. It's on TikTok.
It's probably real. I've not heard of it.
Rated, and I'm like, not. I'm just like, I want to go here.
I am strongly advocating for a touch grass in-person Pacific Northwest outing where we go to the Giant Storeway and the Enchanted Forest, which is this like weird, creepy amusement park here in Oregon. I've never been, but those are the ones I love. Not the like big like Six Flags, whatever, but like the little one-off, like weird, just like passion projects.
Every time we pass the Enchanted Forest, we're in Oregon, we're like, oh my God, what is that? I have to go to that place.
I know, we have to go. We have to investigate.
Yeah, we've been talking about going there, and also this giant. Have you seen the Giant Doorway? Did you see that, Amanda, on TikTok?
I don't know what that is.
It was some guy said like he saw there's like this weird like it's like by a reservoir or something, and there's like this mountain. And there's like this, what looks like a door. And he said that it was open and he saw a giant in there. So
I did see that. I think.
Yeah, it was like but like, it's kind of close to this place, the Enchanted. We thought we'd go on like hit all the spots. So we're kind of planning on going. If you want to go, because we're doing like trying to do Pacific Northwest stuff. So.
Well, I am in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
I'm in the evil part of it, though.
Yeah, I like it's sun. That's all I care about.
The what?
The part that gets sun, like the non-rainforest side. Like you get sun and you get real snow. There's still weird things on that side, but yeah, I guess it, does Idaho count as Pacific Northwest? Because there's strange things there too that I would like to look at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's got some weird liminal stuff going on, especially with the topography and just like the shift. It's like the gateway from the desert of Washington to like Montana itself. I don't know. There's something weird going on with like the Montana, Wyoming, Idaho convergence.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a liminal expanse.
It's prehistoric. There are dinosaurs.
Yeah, it feels like Land Before Time or something when I drove through there. It's just like, what? It's amazing. Yeah.
Lots of ghost towns.
When I moved out here in 2013, my cat and I camped all the way here from Nebraska. So we camped in the Badlands and then Yellowstone and Craters of the Moon in Idaho. But like, it was just, I've done a couple road trips to see all the weirdness in South Dakota too. But like that whole area of like big, expansive plains and then like, yeah, it's a weird and magical part. Like there are so many cool spaces that I'm glad we haven't completely ruined yet.
Yeah.
What do you think that is there a specific weird place out there, Amanda, that you like in that area?
In the Spokane area?
Yeah.
So yes, there's lots of good areas. I mean, in Spokane in particular, we are lucky to have the Spokane Falls running right through the middle of town. And then it's like right down by my place here too. And it goes around over to this area called Bowl and Pitcher, which is a beautiful natural resource. And there's a little park over there where you can find a little waterfall. There's tons of stuff like that around here. And then you go up north to Chewelah, Washington, and you have big Sasquatch country. You have the Psychic Sasquatch Festival up there. You've got like caverns and like really cool stuff up by the Canadian border. And I really like it up there. And then you go south of Spokane, like an hour, you have St. Ignatius Haunted Hospital, which isn't a natural resource, but it's like, that's like our one haunted location. And I love it there. And then I do really love that. Unfortunately, I do love the Idaho Panhandle as a natural resource. It's beautiful. The forests are dense and weird and cool. And I've had a lot of cool experiences at a cemetery up near an abandoned mine in the Idaho Panhandle. And out there is just super cool. Lots of abandoned towns and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm surrounded by weirdness and coolness, but Spokane is just like a really conservative area. And so it's much different, as you all know, from the rest of the Pacific Northwest. Like people will be like, you're the inland Northwest, not the Pacific Northwest. And so they try to like they try to make us not part of it. But I consider Washington, Oregon, Pacific Northwest personally. But
yeah, definitely. My time through Idaho was kind of like in this hippie caravan, which is not the best kind of way to be traveling through Idaho. And it was not necessarily a particularly friendly place. There were a few people who were very kind, but they have really great hot springs. Goldbug hot springs is one of my favorites. It's a little bit of a hike up, but you can see like this beautiful valley when you sit in the natural springs. It looks like a Hidden Valley Ranch commercial, kind of. It's a lovely space, but yeah, it is a very different world.
Yeah, I was in Missoula once, and I got coal rolled on me. Like I was like in an outside cafe, and some guy in a big truck like blew all this black smoke out of his car, like engulfed me in black smoke, and I just kind of like laughed because I was like excited to have coal rolled on me. I mean, I couldn't believe it was happening, but
it's an honor.
Yeah.
Missoula.
What's that?
I lived in Missoula for a little bit because I'm from Billings, Montana, and then I moved to Missoula for like a few months, and it's okay. Montana's a beautiful state, naturally. Like,
yeah.
But yeah.
We
it
were
has its own magic.
In high school, a couple of friends and I did a summer road trip to a town called Big Timber, which is like in south central Montana. It's like near Livingston and Bozeman and stuff.
It's near where I used to live in Billings.
Yeah.
Like that's 45 minutes away. That was our water park.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
You said what? I think
Big Timber.
Big Timber, yeah.
Yeah.
Big Timber Water Park.
Yeah, it's near like Beartooth Pass. So you go down to, that's how you kind of get to Yellowstone and stuff. But there are these mountains, like it's just like a island range there. They're called the Crazy Mountains. And we went hiking in those, and we had some amazing experiences with cows.
With cows?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a free range cattle area. So all the ranchers, and we were like, we're just a bunch of dumb high school kids, and we were like, we're gonna go camping and go up. And my friend who was from there was with us, so he kind of knew, how to get there. And his family owned a dude ranch, and where they would have tourists come in and they got to pretend to be ranchers for a little while. But then something like 6 miles in from the ranch, there was the trailhead to the Crazy Mountain. And I guess they were called that because there's a lot of different reasons why they said it was called that. There was some sort of plant that the horses would eat, and it would make the horses go mad. There was a curse, of course, for Native American curse and all of that stuff. But the only weird thing that happened with us is that like hiking and camping with herds of cows around you sucks. They just like destroy the trail. I mean, the trails were just mud because they just walk through and it would just be mud. We'd be walking along and then we'd hear something we thought was like a rock slide, and we'd look up and we saw a cow like rolling down a hill. We were asleep in the middle of the night, and it was like just dark, and we're out there, and of course there's like grizzlies and black bears and mountain lions, and we were in our tent and we were like just totally asleep, and then we were woken up by what sounded like a train, like, and we were like, what the heck? We woke up startled. It was a cow. It stuck its head in the tent, like zipper open, and the freaking cow's head was in the tent. We walked out, so we were like, we walked up to the glacier, and we were like, it started looking like clouds were coming in, and of course this was pre any sort of like GPS weather technology or anything like that, but the clouds looked threatening enough that we were like, well, we should probably like pack it in. So we hiked back out, and it ended up being like a 16-mile hike that day, that we had to do because we were driven into the trailhead, but we weren't supposed to meet our ride back for like 2 days. So we had to hike not only what we had hiked, but also the additional like 6 miles back to the dude ranch. And when we got back to my friend's car, we noticed it was covered in these like mysterious like white streaks. It was covered like just like somebody had taken like white shoe polish and just gone like blip, 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 top to bottom, like the tires, the windows. And we were like, is this some kind of weird Montana prank or what's going on here? And then we realized what happened. We thought about it. So my friend, we were from Northeast Florida, from St. Augustine, and my friend lived on the beach. And when you live on the beach, sea salt gets all over your vehicle. And so while we had been camping, all of the cows had come by and licked the car.
Yeah.
Was a giant salt lick.
It was a giant salt lick, and we didn't wash it till we got back to Florida.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's starting to make me think about one of the types of evidence that people find for Sasquatch is like those sebum handprints or whatever that are supposed to be like really oily. And when you were first describing what it looked like, it made me think of the way that people describe some of these like Bigfoot prints. Now I'm like,
The cows.
y'all have a cow salt lick situation going on. I think this is just further proof that cows are evil.
That's a good connection. I love cows. They're so friendly. They're so sweet. They're like giant dogs. Their tongues are like cat tongues, except they're super slobbery, but they will be your friend, especially if you pet them or give them like M&Ms and oats.
They are evil vampires and tricksters, and they will torture you. I used to I'm not kidding. I grew up on a beef cattle farm, and I had reoccurring nightmares about vampire cows, and also this like herd of ghost cattle that would like charge people and trample them, and the leader was like this baby calf, and I would be like one day we got into we'd always have this meeting, this meetup, and I was like, I bet you can't turn into an Easter egg, and then all the cows turned into Easter eggs, and I stomped on them.
I feel like there's a lot to unpack there.
Wait,
Absolutely.
Kai, is this why we can't milk cows and we have to milk jackalopes?
Probably. These were beef cattle, not dairy cattle, so I feel a different kind of way about dairy cattle. But
It's a
cattle,
different WUFO.
They're evil and scary.
Was it last WUFO or the one before we were talking about? I have a friend whose mom was terrified of cows, and she found out because she thought it was like a screen memory, like a UFO abduction experience screen memory, and they were appearing as cows, like staring through her window, and then she had this horrifying recurring nightmare of a cow like standing over her bed, like looking at her.
Stop.
Yeah, and so and she had like the little implant. She had an implant and like a couple of weird triangular scar tattoo type things.
Classic, very classic.
Very
That's
classic
wild.
production stuff. And then so we were like, whoa, they were disguising themselves as cows, which go aliens.
What a choice.
Wild.
What a choice.
I hate
Did
it.
you guys want to talk about, or did you want to do the official nostalgia snack report and maybe introduce your nostalgic items for this evening
Yeah.
that we have? I know Amanda kind of talked about.
You want to talk first about what the nostalgia?
Yeah, why we're doing that?
Why we're doing that? Yeah. Particularly Amanda, who is currently chewing food. So sorry to put you on the spot.
I will.
My nostalgic snack that WUFO told me to bring. So I'm here on WUFO. Hello. I've never been on one of these before, so I don't know the format, but we talked a lot about nostalgia before getting on here the last couple days. And it's kind of interesting, I will say, that once we started the group chat talking about nostalgia and talking about the experiments we might do and the things we might bring, I went in to another reality the last 2 days. It was very bizarre. I went about my life like normal, but I felt so nostalgic just by talking about nostalgia that I started to feel how people say that the sun looked different back in the 90s, the sun shined differently, and the air felt different. It's just the way that our memories remember. And but I felt like that the last 2 days, so deeply soaked in my own nostalgia. It was very interesting. And I wanted to tell you guys that just talking about it put me in a really weird space, which I thought was interesting. And then I had some really weird dreams too. So kind of connecting it. But you guys told me to bring some nostalgic snacks. So I brought taco pizza, which I've been eating very rudely on camera. I'm sorry, but I'm hungry.
It's a snack report.
Yes. And I brought some Baskin Robbins ice cream, the Jamocha flavor, because my mom and I used to get that in Montana together back when I was a kid. And then I have some Dr. Pepper too, which is very nostalgic. So I'm surrounded by nostalgic food.
That's awesome. Yeah. I feel like the same thing has been happening for me the past few days as well. I almost mentioned it in the group chat of just there's a lot now just thinking about the subject matter coming up for me about recalling certain things from childhood. I also have a trip planned to my childhood place where I grew up, which I haven't been to in a really long time. So there's a bunch churning for me. I know meeting Jeremy for the first time too, and Garrett, he was oh, I'm from San Augustine. I got this sweater when I was 12 years old. I still fit it, and I got it on a trip during the summer to San Augustine, Florida at a random Walmart when I was 12. And actually, some of the songs on the playlist that I listened to on that road trip are some of the songs I sent to Garrett as well, which is interesting. So I have this weird tie as well for where you grew up and a very core childhood coming of age memory in San Augustine too, which I think is fun. But my snack is zebra cakes from Little Debbie. These were my favorite little after school vanilla cake snacks. as a kid. So
Nice. I am going to jump in because I also, so this shirt is from when I was 14, from the boardwalk at the beach in Maryland. So like similar kind of origin story, although I intentionally got it like big and oversized, and it still fits me kind of about the same. But I've been munching on blueberry Pop-Tarts, the best flavor. S'mores are acceptable. I have a lot of feelings about the cinnamon ones being an abomination. And I also have some sour Smurf Haribo, which are really hard to find. And my pal Claire snagged me a couple of bags this week, which I'm very excited about. But
I didn't know those existed. That's amazing. Do they taste like what you think Smurfs would taste like?
Smurfs are delicious.
I've been drinking Snapple peach tea. I've been having like a weird. I haven't drank that since I was in like 8th grade or something. So I've been slamming that the last couple days. I'm drinking some rosemary tea because Jeremy was talking about how rosemary is good for memory. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just pick from my backyard.
I almost got a Nantucket nectar at the corner shop because it also has that like school vending machine cafeteria kind of a vibe for me.
Yeah, like a Sobeat or like or the Gecko or whatever. Yeah, that whole era.
For me, it would have had to have been a New York seltzer. Do you remember New York seltzer? Those were actually like kind of sicky sweet. They were like, they weren't like the kind of like now people think seltzer and they think like La Croix or whatever, but these were like super sweet. Was it Seinfeld they were big on or something, or
I don't remember.
Was that something different, or that was some kind of tea or something? And we always used to have it, and they had like a cream soda flavor, and it was so good, but that was just like so sweet, just really sweet.
Do y'all remember Orbits?
Oh yeah.
Like lava lamp drink.
And the nasty little balls that were in that. Like I don't like any of that. Like I don't like boba either. It's just too not my thing.
I love
those balls were small enough that I did not find them offensive. Garrett and I had a whole conversation recently about it. I agree with you. Food that pops is offensive and should be banned.
Oh my goodness. I'm drinking out of a boba cup at the moment, actually, and it's got Sailor Moon on it. So I'm offended by your boba opinions, but there's actually no boba in this, so I guess I can't, this is my rosemary. I made rosemary simple syrup earlier today because we were talking about the rosemary. So this is a cocktail that's vodka, but it's the gay vodka. Hold on. It's Dan Aykroyd's gay vodka.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
I'm almost out. I don't know what I'm going to do because I've had this for like 2 years. But, so I felt like Dan Aykroyd was relevant for multiple reasons. Ghostbusters and whatnot. Also, it's just really good vodka, to be honest. Also, he's a really spooky dude, which I didn't know until recently.
Yeah, his daughter, like they're super involved in the spiritualist movement.
Yeah.
His whole family, which is wild.
His dad was like in maybe it was the Spiritualist Society or something, but
it was
or the Society for Psychical Research or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So and then my other, I have orange slices. Because oranges felt relevant and nice to eat.
Those are like a grandma snack for me.
Yeah. And then my item is it's another stuffed animal. It's Sherlock, who I got from one of my relatives when I had surgery in like 3rd grade. That's not for you, Maisie.
They're very well loved.
Oh, very much. Yeah, he goes everywhere.
Like I just almost got teary-eyed. I miss my stuffed animal.
I get that. I would save Sherlock from a burning building, like before I saved anything else. Somebody was like, that seems a little juvenile. And I was like, no, that just means you don't have a stuffed animal that's important to you. Because like
Sherlock or Chaco?
Okay, well, to be honest with you, If it was just me, I'd have to get Choco first, but Erica would probably be with me and she would take care of Choco.
You would get Choco and
I'm off the hook.
Double team.
I don't have any nostalgic snacks tonight because I don't usually I'm not a snacking during WUFO person, even though we always do snack reports. But I did want to mention, so that Walmart in St. Augustine is the only Walmart in St. Augustine, and it was close enough to my house that I would ride my bike there almost every day. So there's a chance we were there at the same time.
That's
you know what's really sketchy?
Weird.
I convinced my grandmother and my great grandmother on that same trip. They did ear piercing at Walmart, which just in itself is very sketchy. But it was the gun style, at Claire's, and I was bullied so much in middle school. I was just like, please let me get my ears pierced a second time. All the cool kids are doing it. I don't want to be bullied anymore. I just want a normal thing to fit in. And they're like, okay, it's vacation. It's Walmart. We can trust them. They did not heal at all. Well, I cannot use earrings in those holes at all. But that was also another core experience. Obviously, they don't do that at Walmart anymore. But it's also just such a Florida thing in retrospect. I don't know why. The Florida summer vacation thing to do. But I think it's interesting. I remember that trip so vividly. It just even the humidity on my skin. And it was one of the first times I had seen a graveyard that had graves from the 1700s in it. I remember seeing graves of children that were my age in the graveyard who had died from yellow fever and smallpox, which was really fascinating to me at the time too. I don't know, it's just a really interesting city, but I don't know, the paths crossing aspect of that as well is neat to think about.
Totally, yeah.
Can you also get hair wraps and cornrows put in at that Walmart? What kind of Disney World Walmart is this?
I mean, you could probably find any sort of little beach place in Florida for sure to do that for you if you so desire.
No,
it was small. It was a really small compared to the Walmarts of today. It was a really small Walmart, and it was so exciting to have it at the time. Big deal.
Yeah.
I remember when the town I grew up in got a Walmart, and everyone was super excited, and it did have a little jewelry counter with watches and stuff. And now I'm trying to remember if they pierced ears there.
That's where they would pierce your ears in the store. Did you guys have any nostalgia objects either? In addition?
Mine is my hat that I'm wearing right now. It was my dad's hat on the orange farm, on the citrus farm we used to have. And he would always wear it when he was riding his riding mower around. So I have that. That's totally
That's really sweet
thing for me.
I wonder if we want to talk about get into some of the stuff that Amanda has, Amanda's ideas around all of this, just kind of why we're doing this nostalgia thing. I don't know.
Because that's just one little aspect of a larger umbrella of what you have discovered and worked on.
I mean, you're doing all kinds of things, but I'd love to talk about the emotional touch point theory too, and the relationship with that and everything. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourself for people who don't know who you are, and we could start talking about some of that stuff. I would love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone watching who doesn't know me, my name is Amanda Paulson, and I run the blog Pretty Effin' Spooky. I have been a paranormal investigator since 2008 is the first time I joined a paranormal team. And then I've had ghostly experiences, paranormal experiences since I was 7 years old. And it's followed me my entire life. In my 20s, I took a little bit of a break from exploring the paranormal as heavily as I was when I joined the team, but still continued to experience weird things. And then my grandpa died in 2018, and the whole world changed. And I got back into the paranormal, starting my blog, Pretty If and Spooky, in 2019 to try to connect with other people and talk about weird things with weird people like myself. And so I'm in Spokane, Washington, in Eastern Washington. And in 2020, I'm getting to a point about nostalgia and about my paranormal motive touchpoint theory. But in 2020, I joined a project, a documentary project about the Lady of Lake Crescent on the Olympic Peninsula. And I continued to work on that project for about 4 years, going and doing a lot of really deep research into the Olympic Peninsula in all ways, all paranormal phenomena over there. And that led to me writing my paranormal emotive touchpoint theory, which theorizes that there are soft spots throughout the world or in moments in time where the veil is thin and the other side is easier to connect with. But it's different from traditional haunted locations in that it shows itself to us by presenting us with what I call odd emotions. So I use the term odd emotions as a bucket term on emotions that I consider to be paranormal in nature. So odd emotions are things like nostalgia, which we're talking about today, liminality, synchronicity, and deja vu. And synchronicity and deja vu are odd occurrences, I recognize, but I kind of use odd emotions as like a big bucket term. And so I started digging really deep I think it was in 2022 is when I start really digging deep into my research of paranormal emotions and how our living people emotions are telling us a lot more than we realize. It's communicating with us what the phenomena is also trying to communicate with us, and it all kind of bleeds together, and it's all one. So that's kind of like my area of research, of expertise. Like that's what I love to talk about. And something that Garrett mentioned is that I recently was talking about nostalgia in particular and my experiments with manufacturing nostalgia so that I could investigate the nostalgia and investigate the paranormal emotive touch point that nostalgia creates. So what I have done in the past is I have this I'm looking at it right now. I have this big CRTV that I play I have a DVD collection that are very nostalgic to me. For me, nostalgia equates movies, like TV and film. That is like my biggest nostalgic tie, and like video games. And so I'll play nostalgic things on the CRTV to kind of like supercharge my environment with nostalgia, and then dig into research, like paranormal research from there. And then also I recently talked about playing a playthrough of this video game I used to play as a kid on my computer. It's called Jumpstart. I can't remember what grade it was, like Jumpstart 4th grade or something like that. And that playthrough also helped me manufacture some nostalgia. So Garrett and the whole WUFO team, we all like started talking about nostalgia being something we could discuss and kind of play with as I'm a guest on WUFO tonight, which I love. So yeah, you guys got some like really cool stuff together, which I'm really excited to experiment with.
Yeah. So much there. Yeah, we made. So one thing we were doing is we had everyone here give me a playlist of songs of things that they were like nostalgic, what may elicit nostalgia. So, and then I made a custom spirit box that actually chops it all up into little fragments and then plays it in random order. And it kind of sounds like a spirit box, but it's like a custom one to like our group nostalgia, I guess. Although the Red Hot Chili Peppers, whoever picked that one, you can kind of hear Anthony Kiedis through the whole thing. I feel like he kind of sticks out.
That's my bad.
I mean, I can play a little bit of it. Can you hear that? So I thought maybe someone could go under with that and we could do some kind of experiment talking to something, we had talked about talking to the spirit of nostalgia itself, or I had done some. I was reading about something. I can't remember how it came up, but then there's this goddess that came up in Greek mythology. I can't pronounce her name though. Do you know how to pronounce that, Jeremy, or anyone?
Mnemosyne. Mnemosyne. It's like M and N together. You kind of go heavier on the N, so Mnemosyne.
Mnemosyne, which is like goddess of memory, and like where the word mnemonic comes from. So I thought that would be interesting. I had this like personal thing where I was really into this other Greek idea of a river Lethe, where like in Greek mythology you drink it and you would forget, and you kind of forget your life as you entered the underworld. But then there was also these oracle cults where they would drink something, and like I think they would kind of like hallucinate, and then they drink the Mnemosyne, other water from that to like regain their memory as they come back from this like ritual. And I, in high school, I was really into Lethe. I had a blog about Lethe, and so like I'd never heard about the other one until we were talking about all this. So, and then there's a relationship between that goddess, and she's the mother of all the muses. So like all of the arts, which I think is interesting to think about arts and what we're talking about with all this kind of like paranormal stuff. And is there a relationship? Yeah, we're using the spirit box of songs that were all that elicit this nostalgia, and this is kind of, I think that music does that for sure. It totally connects you back to this place you were in when that 8th grade dance or whatever. So that's all interesting to me. I think the relationship there. Anyways, so that's one thing we were talking about, maybe doing some kind of experiment with that. Sierra, you had something you were working on too. Maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, I remember when I first met you and Jeremy, I had gotten this sort of message coming through for myself of like, your future self takes care of you now. And I've been kind of obsessed with that idea since then. I've been through a lot of therapy, a lot of personal work, and one of the modalities that I find really interesting is internal family systems or parts work, where you look at the different aspects of self that maybe have fractured or have formed in order to help you get through your day-to-day life based on trauma or coping mechanisms, etc. And there is an aspect of communicating or going back and like sitting with your childhood selves in these moments. That's a very heavy version of it. I think that there are also positive instances where nostalgia can be tied to these selves as well in the past that we look upon sweetly. And to be able to communicate with these aspects of self, I think it could be possible using paranormal investigation techniques, regardless, if it's like divination or more intuitive investigation, or using things that are more ITC related, like the ghost box or trying to report EVPs. And I think invoking nostalgia is a really interesting and important way to help bring those selves about. And I know tonight we're more so looking at like past younger versions of ourselves, which in some way I think feels more tangible for the way we process time and the way we process memory. So thinking of that, I have been trying to come up with different ways to interact with our past selves, whether that's our inner child or our angsty teenager or even our young adult. Like, what are things we could do to bring them about? What are things we could do to welcome them in? What questions can we ask them that might be helpful for us in the present moment to receive information and see what things we might be forgetting, or like what aspects of self that we could integrate? And Needless to say, a lot of the things that I came up with are actually pretty heavy. They can be personal, or open up a rabbit hole that like maybe is not the best to get into on live stream. But I was very excited about the ideas that I put together, and some of them are more lighthearted and fun, and I think could be applicable maybe in questioning nostalgia itself as an entity and not just our own personal inner child or past self. But I don't know. I think that idea has been very fascinating for me for a long time. And it's interesting to also hear people like Amanda who have the emotive touchpoint theory and having nostalgia as an aspect of that, and someone who's also been through a lot and can maybe relate to like the paranormal aspects overlapping with the states and things that we've been through as like a melding point for phenomena, to just show up and like participate and brainstorm in a space like this. I don't know if that actually answered the question. I feel like I just rambled.
No. What is the quote that you said that you heard? Like the little saying about the
So it's your future self takes care of you now. So that idea plays off of retrocausality in a way, which is something that I'm still learning about, but I've heard more and more of recently, and there is some theoretical research physics-wise that supports this. There are a few studies that have been done that support this being an actual theory where the present can actually be affected by future. So there's the podcast ESP is Real by Mitch Horowitz, and I think it's in one of his Pink Bucket episodes. He discusses a study that was done where there are two groups of people who are being studied in a laboratory. They both are given a list of words to spell. They don't know them. They don't know how to spell them. One group is supposed to study after being given the group of words, and then the other group is just going to take the test without studying. And they both were given a test preemptively. The group that had the intent to study the words before taking the real test actually scored higher on the initial practice test than the group who wasn't going to study, which I found to be very interesting. There's another research study as well that just came out that had something similar, but it was dealing with particles, and it feels more convoluted and complicated to explain. But there is science that backs this theory up. So I am starting to think about different ways, not just to talk to past versions of self, but how can our future versions of self also be trying to communicate with us now in the present. I don't know if that makes very much sense. I'm still trying to figure it out myself, but
it reminds me in Bill and Ted's when they're like, we need the key or whatever, and then like okay, we'll go back in time and do it, but like they just like find it now because they know their future self's going to deal with it or something, and like here it is. But it also makes me wonder if you could actually try to investigate your future self or like talk to your future self.
Exactly.
I don't know if anyone's ever done that, but I thought that would be that's kind of like,
I know that has kind of started to hit the waves of the paranormal community a little bit. Definitely like a more outskirt community, but I have seen some people starting to play with investigating timelines, like or like looking at time more fluidly and then investigating with themselves, or like kind of proposing the idea that we actually are talking to ourselves.
Yep.
Any given
exactly.
moment on a paranormal investigation, just at a different time. So I've seen that starting to kind of like, it's interesting. I'm sure you guys are all aware of like the trends and the ebb and flow of the paranormal field at large. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to watch ideas come to the forefront, because I truly believe in what they say about if I have an idea, like, and I don't get it out, then it's going to come out of somebody else because that idea or that thing needs to come. It's like ready to come out, you know, like, and I think we all kind of get on the same pages at the same time. Sometimes for maybe some larger mysterious reason, but it's been cool to see more people get on board with that idea.
Yeah, that's
You know what this is kind of makes me think of is like, so when I first started getting back into like sort of investigating my ancestors and ancestry and doing the sort of like very, very like basic, you know, ancestor practice, the concept that I am actually in training as an ancestor myself. And because of that, like I want to try and be an ancestor who would like deserve kind of the I don't know, I'd not say veneration, but the respect of my own descendants. And then I'm thinking, but this makes me wonder, like, wait a second. If I am venerating my ancestors in some way, are they getting that in the past? And if my descendants end up doing that for me, will that have an impact on my current life? Like, will I, you know, are they sending like messages to me through just remembering my life?
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. I haven't even thought about that in the form of like ancestral veneration. That's beautiful.
Isn't that? It's an interesting like concept. So
There's like oh, you know, maybe my ancestors or like my grandmother or whoever is now my guardian angel and looking out for me, but I haven't thought about it in like whatever the opposite of retrospect is. Like maybe it is my future ancestors actually watching over me and protecting me right now. That's beautiful.
This is making me think about, I don't know whether I believe in this or not, but like there are some concepts of the soul or I mean, yeah, I think the author of the book that I'm thinking of, Journey of Souls, like talks about the like essentially that like some part of us is like coming down here doing some stuff, being then like going into this alternate kind of more all-knowing space, but that there are sometimes like there are essentially like clusters of souls who come back and like interact with each other over and over again and like learn lessons together over and over again. And so like I don't know, like if that is partly what's happening, that like adds a whole other tangle to like the timeline and what does it mean to be communicating with potentially like a past version of yourself. Because when I think about, when I do my practice on like thinking about my ancestors, I don't think about it in like heredity. I think about it in terms of like my chosen family. I think about it in terms of like people like Joan of Arc and other like queer badasses who I feel like are like, I hope that I will be cool enough to be like have, or like not even cool enough, but like to have like fought hard enough to feel like I get to be in the list way down as the like 20th cousin 5 times removed.
Like, you're gonna be cool enough to be on someone's altar. You're gonna just be kind enough to be on someone's altar space. It's okay. They will have the sour smurfs sitting for you in a bowl.
I feel that so heavily though on like the looking at ancestors not just as hereditary but as community ancestors, and I've really dug that idea more so recently as I've shared more online and I have started to create a community around spirits that I talk to, like this painting being haunted, and all of the videos that I've done about this painting, having millions of people perceive the video, I feel like gave power to it or gave substance to it in some way. And now I actually venerate the spirits that I talk to and hear most often as if they're an ancestor. Like I feel like I've kind of gained them as, and it may be an egregore, it may be an amalgamation of, I don't even know, but I have a thing of water and like I venerate them like an ancestor, and I'm like, that's a community ancestor, and anyone watching my content now can also venerate this if they want to. Like, but also just like community figures in general, I really vibe with that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's really neat.
Does that painting have a name for the thing that's attached to it, or the person? Or
I have gotten names, but I like in my soul don't feel like it has a name. I am leaning towards that it had some residual, like a little smattering of energy left on it from whoever painted it. And then I think that I personified it through intensive investigation on camera. Like,
Yeah.
so now it's kind of him, you know, like,
yeah.
which some people would consider like kind of dark, like, and people get creeped out by it. I love it though, because in a way it's personified by the spirit of the supportive people who I have had helping me create a career in a sort of way, you know, like I'm very closely tied to Pretty Effin' Spooky. Pretty Effin' Spooky is me. So then when people participate, now these objects, and there's other objects up here like a necklace and stuff, like they are the good spirit of my community. You know what I mean? So I haven't attributed a name to it, although I've gotten some names, but I don't think that that in particular, I don't think is a human spirit in a way.
I feel like that would be a synesthesia sort of experience compared to like a clear name. I don't know if that makes sense, but just more of like a feeling or a sensation or association with like emotion or color or whatever else.
Yeah, that's a good way of explaining it. Yeah.
Have you ever read Dirty Job by Christopher Moore? Oh, y'all, it's great. I hope that Christopher Moore hasn't been canceled for anything. I don't think he has been. But the premise of the book is this guy owns a site like an antique shop and does estates buying. And this is not a spoiler. You've learned this in like the first page or two of the book. His wife dies in childbirth, and so he is kind of dealing with that and figuring out how to raise this new baby. And shortly after she passes, he wakes up and there's this book next to his bed, and he has become a death merchant, and there is a little bit of people's souls attached to certain items that were really important to them. And his job in kind of the greater scheme of things is to just help make sure that those objects get passed on to the right next person, because that little bit of soul kind of like gets embodied in that, like, and that's how it kind of passes on. But when you're talking about the painting having that like little bit, it made me think of that concept. Y'all should read the books. They're hilarious and funny, and they're a great escape for this moment in time. Got several.
Put it on my list. I put it on my list. That sounds right up my alley. So
yeah.
There's a sequel too. So if you love the first one, there's the second one.
Okay, can you put that in the chat just so I remember what it is? Because I don't know. Like, I think you just inspired me to do like a estate sale planning for people who have deceased. I don't know. My great grandmother who raised me, she and my grandmother both co-owned and ran an antique store, which was like my second home growing up. And my great grandmother like lived in over 42 different countries and had like stuff from all over the world, but also like going to estate sales and garage sales and finding things for the antique store and like figuring out how to pick things out and like figure out what they're from. there's something in that in itself, not to mention like the energetic aspect of it as well. And I remember after she passed away, they have people that will come in and just like assess your whole estate and then put on an estate sale for you, especially if you have higher value items or like rare and unusual objects. And that just sounds like, I don't know, my ADHD brain would be very happy with that. Plus, it's just like you get to be inside of people's homes and hear about their life and then like find these objects as well. I don't know. That's fascinating. I want to hear fiction about that. That sounds amazing. What did you guys want to do like experiment wise this evening? What you thinking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
What was the website with the randomizer?
I can talk about that too, real quick.
That's really cool. That's a anytime Garrett builds like a widget, it's very exciting to me. Like there's like extra spirit boxes or like it's so fun.
Yeah, you can go to this. Anyone can go to this right now. It's really simple, but and maybe people here have some ideas how to improve this. But the idea is that when Sarah was talking about the ideas she had for this ritual to kind of talk to your past or something, you know, I was thinking that it would be fun to make it into kind of like a TTRPG, like a role-playing game, but like also was thinking of like roll for sandwich on TikTok, where you like roll for the bread and the meat and the cheese. He builds a sandwich on TikTok, and I was like, well, what if you did that for your memories? Roll for nostalgia. And so like the idea is you roll and you pick one of these categories. I picked 6 categories, so it's like a smell or a book or kind of piece of writing, some kind of sound or music, some kind of performance like a movie or a play, a certain place. I think I can't remember what the other ones are. And then the other thing is a letter. So that maybe starts like you get aroma and you get a B, the letter B. And so maybe you think broccoli. So then the idea is then to maybe think about a time when you had broccoli and then kind of sit with that moment and think about where are you? Who's around you at that time? What are you feeling? Yeah, like trying to re-embody and get back into the sensation of that. And then I don't know, I just thought that would be, I don't know what that means. I just thought it might be interesting to a way to elicit memories that you wouldn't necessarily, you're not choosing the memory. It's like you're almost like tarot cards are your memories. And maybe unlock something. I don't know.
I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Someone want to do it? I don't know if someone wants to.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm rolling right now. Rolling for nostalgia. Taste and then the letter M.
So maybe a food or a restaurant or.
So I'm remembering this coffee kiosk in Billings, Montana that I used to go to in high school called Mountain Mud. And Mountain Mud had like my favorite iced coffee drink that I'd get. And this would have been like 2006. And it had a very like 2000s, actually very 90s like graphic on the side of it. With like this scratchy font and like these little mountains. It was very cute. But I know that's not really a taste, but it's associated with a thing that I would put in my mouth and swallow.
Is this like a positive place? Do you feel like a good time? And
it's interesting that I'm even thinking about it right now because it is a nothing memory, but now I'm attributing more to it. So this is an interesting exercise in creating a deeper longing for something in the past of which I haven't longed for in a while. But Mountain Mud was good. You know, if I'm to dig deeper into this, I remember going with my friends on like lunch break from lunch because we could leave our high school for lunch. And so Mountain Mud to me relates to me and my friends more deeply. So the taste, I guess there's no taste there. I don't remember the taste of the Mountain Mud drink I used to get, but it's weird. I haven't even said the words Mountain Mud in a really long time. And you know what we might be unintentionally doing too? I've found that these odd emotions, these things tend to be interconnected. And I feel like there's a possibility we may be having a synchronicity with some of the things we bring up tonight too, which I've already been seeing kind of synchronicities roll out the last couple days since we've been talking about nostalgia. So I would not be surprised if for some reason, like Mountain Mud comes up, because I have family in Montana still. So putting on record right now, maybe my family mentions Mountain Mud for some reason.
Right. You know, it's funny. You said too, this like a nothing memory. And I remember you talked about that on the podcast with Steve, that like there's some memory you had that elicited nostalgia, but it was something kind of benign. It was like going to your aunt and uncle's house or something. And it wasn't. I remember thinking it was interesting because it was not like, you know, like a formative memory. It's just kind of this memory you had of like the smell of your aunt's house.
Yes. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. It was the smell. So my aunt and uncle's house, which I lived with them for a very short time when we moved from California to Montana when I was 7 years old. Their house smelled like fireplace, but they had carpet, and it was like kind of an 80s house, but it had that slight smell of fireplace, and mixed with like my uncle's cologne kind of. And that's like very nostalgic for me, but it is kind of a nothing memory because it's not associated. It's like a larger memory. I don't know. But then this is also interesting too. And we kind of joked before about how personal this can get. Personally, I talk about anything. Like nothing's off limit. I've talked about everything on the internet even. So it's like whatever. But it does get really personal because it gets into how we each personally remember things, and then also what we remember. And for me, there's a big chunk of time from about 3rd to 5th grade that I don't remember. So, and then other parts of my childhood come in small increments like this, like my aunt and uncle's house and how it smelled, but I don't have very specific. I have like these like 20 memories and I like can pinpoint them. But then I found in the last couple years, as I started doing this research on paranormal emotions, that I started unintentionally uncovering my own emotions, because it's like this deep shadow work too, in a sense. Like I'm doing this deep therapeutic work, assessing my emotions so deeply that I ended up uncovering some memories, and some memories started surfacing. Luckily, they were okay memories to surface and not the worst ones, but those are still hidden deep down. But yeah, it is interesting. Nostalgia just will eventually uncover something very personal, I feel like. But like, yeah, like Mountain Mud is like, oh, I'm nostalgic for the times that my friends and I from high school used to go visit. But then you think about it longer and you start to realize you start longing for the innocence that we felt, and the fact that we didn't worry about money at the time, and we could buy whatever coffee we wanted with the money we had from the part-time job we held, like, and the freedom of our teenage years. And like, that's what I'm nostalgic for. So then Mountain Mud comes up, but it's really a deep longing for that teenage freedom and carefreeness. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the representation of that. For sure.
Is there a way to, having accessed that, kind of slingshot it into the forward, like into the future for yourself? Like I wonder if there's a way to, you know, having kind of like reach back and touch a memory that like you didn't even really realize that you had, that like isn't some like, you know, huge moment, but you know, there's a reason that it's still cataloged in here. And maybe that sense, that like that emotion of, or that like experience of not having the weight of the world on your shoulders is like something that you can kind of like grab. And
I feel like a lot of that freedom comes back to us depending on life choices that we make in our older years as we age, where we start giving less fucks and we have more stability and have found our niche in life to be able to be a little bit more carefree in that way, I think, and to set down the urge and the drive that almost feels like a necessity to become established so we know that we're okay. At least this is what I've gathered from growing up with the older generations of my family. And I think you get some of that carefree and that playfulness back eventually if you're lucky to make it to those ages. Maybe that would be a good way to cast that like into the future of like what could I possibly do that will like replicate the mountain mud of the future? Like what might that even be? I don't know.
It's all of us going to the enchanted forest together.
Yes, I like that.
I agree.
Searching for giants.
I just have to laugh at the fact that I just read a comment, and I don't know how these comments work at all. I'm helping stream, for anyone watching, I'm helping stream through Instagram, so I'm just seeing these comments now. Someone called me boring. Wow, I didn't know I was going to be so humbled on WUFO today.
Yeah, I didn't know like that there were more exciting things to do on a Wednesday night, but all right.
They said poor hosting on my part. Oopsie. Anyway, somebody else roll for nostalgia because I really want to hear what other people have.
Okay, wait. Locale, letter V. Okay, what is V? That feels so specific. Why the letter V? I don't know. I will have to think on this. Maybe would vacation work? Could I do like an instance for a locale? Would that work?
You did talk about your vacation earlier with the St. Augustine.
I did. For
Which
some
has
reason.
a beach. That starts with a B.
Yeah, I mean, the vacation to St. Augustine was really important. There was also, I don't remember if it was the same trip where we drove up to Asheville, North Carolina as well and visited the Biltmore mansion. I don't know why that vacation sticks out so much in my head. Maybe this is where the deeper questions come in, but you know, like 12 is its own vibe. It's your last year as a not teenager. You're very much preteen emotions and hormones. I don't know. I feel like part of my brain came online during that year. There was a lot of stuff going on interpersonally for me. And Florida in itself has this weird space. It's a weird state in general with a lot of weird things in it. Anytime I've ever gone, it's been really beautiful, but it's been a strange time in general with like the people that I've gone with, the family members specifically, or what that has represented for me. I think that was like one of the last major vacations I took with my great grandmother before she passed away, too. Which is also notable. But I think I was starting to be treated more like a person than less like a child within my family dynamic as well, which is its own liminal space. And I don't know, I remember going on a ghost tour there, which was really fun and interesting. And there's also something about the beach for me, which I don't have the access to here in Washington. Like the Puget Sound is great, but the beaches are not the same. It's not the same expanse of ocean. It feels like looking at life itself. When you can just stare at the Gulf of America and Just like look out into the endless waters. But or I guess San Augustine is actually the Atlantic Ocean. But it's the same thing as like looking at the stars when you can see them in the night sky. There's something very like ancestral about it as well. And I just remember like I think that was my first time seeing the Atlantic too, which is very impactful for me. There was a lot of introspection, but I was also an only child, so there was always a lot of introspection because there's no one else to talk to. So that vacation was great.
That's so interesting. I also had like my 12-year-old coming of age vacation to Florida. We did not go to St. Augustine. We went to Disney World, and it was miserable and terrible. And my parents were about to divorce, and like just to add
that's like the tower card of vacations. That's terrible. Oh man, I'm sorry. Like, did you? I don't know. Going to Disney World and having a terrible time in itself is its own thing, but like also with parents that are about to divorce, like that whole dynamic of family and having to deal with them, even as a kid, like you know, like it's just off. The vibes are off. Like why? I don't know. From an outside perspective, that feels like a last-ditch effort to like try and let's make your childhood great before we completely turn everything upside down.
What if we were at Disney World at the same time?
Jeremy, you're just like in all of her nostalgic memories. You've been there. You're like the Where is Waldo of her.
Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that picture that someone where like someone was at they're like getting married? Did you see this? Have you guys ever seen this? And then like they were looking at an old family album and the other person was in the picture like when they were kids, like, and they like why is my dad in your family photo album in the back? And then he realized like, oh, that's me in the stroller, and like they just happened to be in a picture like 25 years beforehand at Disneyland. Yeah, which
this is gonna be the retrocausality. We're gonna go back and like look at our pictures from our vacations as preteens, and Jeremy is gonna be in the background of all of them.
Right. Yeah.
I had that happen to me. I was at an event and like had taken some pictures. I later met someone who I dated for a while, and we were like realized that we were both at that event, and I was like, no way. Like we were both like super in love. So we're like, no way, I would have noticed you. I would have seen you in a crowd like a shiny. There have been rainbows over your head, and like
I was just thinking about recently, sorry, this is sort of off topic, but on topic to what you're saying. But like, I was thinking a lot recently about how there's those people that you meet and you're like kind of along the lines of like, we were meant to meet, or I think we've met in another life, or like, I don't know. I just met somebody recently for the first time after like knowing them online. And then when we met, it was like, I was like, I think I've known you before. Do you guys think about that very much? I think that I know that Absolutely. That's like a very rare thing to think about. Like, I think a lot of people talk about it like a thread. What are they like? I don't whatever.
Golden thread.
Yeah, and but it's like I don't know. I guess I hadn't really ever considered it much, but lately I've been meeting these people where I'm like, whoa, like on first, not like love at first sight, but it's like at the first interaction, I'm like, I was totally meant to know you. And then even some people that I've met that I didn't get to know better, but I'm like, I think in another lifetime, like we like were family or like in love or something. Like, I don't know. And it's just like so weird. And it's so many different kinds of people. I don't know. It's been something that's like been on my mind a lot recently.
Yeah.
What's interesting for me though, like, even though I had that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like we're so connected, we've known each other for like forever, obviously, and like for in different lives or whatever it is, but like I had like they were in pictures that I took at that event, and I was like, oh look, like we were only like this far apart, and I had no idea. So it's also interesting that like once you actually connect with those people, they feel so integral, but also that you could walk by them and like have no idea when like
That's interesting. That's so cool. And like you said,
it hasn't activated yet that you're supposed to.
yeah, because like you said, you thought you would have seen them and they would have like glowed or something, like, but it's like, no, that like side quest hasn't activated yet. Like we haven't like actually, we're not ready yet. We're not in like the stage of life yet to activate that side quest, you know?
You needed more time to marinate.
Right.
I'm gonna ask a weird question. Do you, because this is my experience, and especially on tours, and this same thing happened to Sierra in real time. I 90% of the time know who I am looking for the second that I look at them. Like if I'm expecting someone that I've never seen.
You and I keep doing that too, Emily.
Often,
yeah, you just know. Like Amanda, when I was standing waiting to talk to you at the Ghost Conference in Port Campbell, like Emily and I knew we were supposed to be meeting up, but we hadn't texted each other at all that day. We didn't know what each other looked like. And I was just like, oh, I like your cardigan. And she was like, thank you. Oh, you're Sierra. And we like immediately, we were like, oh, yes, we're supposed to be here. We did it again at like another podcast live show later at the Moore Theater, where it's like, oh, I'm at the theater and I'm thinking of you. And she like didn't even text me back. She just hugs me and I'm like, who is this person? Oh, okay, no, like I know you. Okay, cool. We're just supposed to be here. There's like another person that I met at the Port Campbell Ghost Conference too that I'm just like immediately best friends with now, and her family is just like my family, and I don't understand how it's happened, but it happens. Like you meet these people where it's just like you're supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Like how Garrett and I were friends online for like years before
Jeremy.
we were across the street from each other in Seattle.
Jeremy. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Little did you know you were Wallingford buddies.
You know, the subject of like being in the same picture and everything, in St. Augustine in college, we realized, so this was like back in the days of like video cameras, you know, like the shoulder ones or, you know, sometimes the handheld ones, because nobody had them on their phones yet. And we realized walking around in this tourist town that gets really crowded in the summer, that like we were probably on tons of people's home videos. Like we would just be walking through the screen while they were watching their vacation videos. And so we started saying gnomes, gnomes, gnomes every time we walked by somebody who was holding up the camera, just to give them like something interesting that that happened on their vacation while they're watching.
I love that. You've always been this way.
People tell me like, yeah, we were in St. Augustine and somebody was talking about gnomes.
Someday a future civilization is going to digitize or turn all of those tapes into whatever like media works when they find them, and they're going to like find all these clips of you and your friends chanting about gnomes, and a whole hypothesis about the gnome cult of St. Augustine will be born. I can't wait.
It's better than Ancient Aliens. We'll get a it'll be on the History Channel.
I love that. Did anyone else want to do Roll for Nostalgia?
I kept rolling and rolling and rolling, and I got taste every single time. I don't know why. I don't know why it wants me to remember.
Remember the taste of nostalgia. Now, what do you taste?
Yeah. See, that's the problem. Right now, all I taste is the orange slices because it's such
it could be taste.
What letter? What letter does
taste in fashion? Taste in music? You can bend it. It's okay.
That's true. That's true. I got E a couple of times, but the only E memory that comes up for me, which is kind of, I guess I've been thinking about Girl Scouts a lot lately. I don't know if that's because of the liminal Scouts thing, but like I really have been thinking about Girl Scouts a lot.
It's cookie time right now, I think.
It is cookie time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't even
Favorite cookie.
Yeah,
we need to know.
Thin Mints. I mean,
Favorite.
definitely.
Thin Mints?
Peanut butter patties. Oh, okay. No, Amanda, you can't just like judge like that and then not share yours.
I'm team shortbread / trefoils, and then second choice is caramel delight / Samoas.
There we go.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I was like, what? I've never heard so many different answers. But the right
It's
answer.
tagalongs.
No.
Tagalongs, though.
Samoas are okay
Tagalongs
if you
are
put them in the fridge. They have
Tagalongs.
to be in the fridge for like the more chewy texture.
Nobody
Totally
else
unrelated, but
tagalongs.
tagalongs?
Yeah,
What one
Aren't
is
they
they're
a
like
different name
peanut
now?
butter
The
filled
peanut
ones.
butter ones.
Like
I
cookie,
do not-
peanut butter, chocolate.
don't put
Oh.
sugar anywhere near my peanut butter. Blech. You
No,
can't
no,
have
no.
those.
The tagalongs are good in the freezer. I don't know why they all have to be like in the fridge or freezer for me, but it's the texture. It's the texture.
Look, I used to sell the most Girl Scout cookies every year in my troop because I would get my dad to drive me around to all the farmers' houses who had those big chest freezers, and I would be like, look, you are going to be the envy of everyone else. You're going to buy 10 boxes of Girl Scout cookies for me, and you're going to put them in the freezer. And
That's
then you
me.
can bust them out whenever.
I am the farmer.
selling cookies for me? Selling Girl Scout cookies defeated me. I was like, something is wrong with me. Like 8 years old because I just hated it so much. I'm like, I could not bring myself to talk to anyone enough, like a stranger, God forbid. So scary. But
Yeah, we're from the era of stranger danger. How are we supposed to market cookies when we're not supposed to talk to you first off?
See, my dad.
If somebody had told me that they were going to drive me to a stage where I could talk to 1,000 people at once, I would have gotten in a stranger's car. Like,
I believe you.
to talk to 1,000 people while on stage.
yeah, I would have been like, hell yeah, let's go. I want to talk to. I want to be on. Let's do it.
Oh. Also unrelated, but do you all know that Emily and I stayed in the same room on a cruise ship one time? Do you all know
Yeah.
that?
No.
I mean,
Yes, I remember
At this point,
you.
I just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda's never going to be able to get rid of me. I'm going to just pop up for the rest
Well,
of
I
Amanda's
think it was
life.
one of those weird things where like it's just weird. Like because it was completely random, like strangers. Because I was going alone and you thought you were going alone. And then we got placed in the room together. I drank too much on that cruise, straight up. And I was really sick on that cruise. So
Was this just like a random cruise to like, or is
No,
this like one of the ghost kind of cruises? Or
yeah,
something?
it was Amy's cruise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so that was a weird time. But the trip was sweet. But it's just so crazy that we literally stayed in a room together for a week, like for like 10 days. Wild. And then you and your friend get to sleep together, and her friend ended up going, and I don't know, it was a weird time, but yeah,
it worked out for the best though, because like Erica and I, had we not been forcefully separated, would not have talked to anybody else. Like Erica and I are too intertwined, and so I mean, it sounds like we're married. We're like not all the time, but people think we are all the time. But it worked out for the best because we definitely like met people on that cruise that I do feel like we'll know forever. So
yeah. In the spirit of nostalgia, I am very nostalgic for that time, that whole cruise, that time period, that summer of 2022. But yeah, anyway.
Did anything cool happen on that trip, on that cruise? Like, did you guys do anything?
Well, we got to see the catacombs, and we got to see Stonehenge, and we got to see the Tower of Hercules.
Wow.
Like lots of cool, and another stone circle. So like that stuff was cool. In my opinion, I'm not into the cruise part of it. Like I was like not. I just felt like like gnawing at my enclosure. You know, like I was like let off of this boat. But Emily, you and your friend like did more of the ship stuff. You swam, I know. On the boat? Swam on the boat?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
cruises
is
are weird. Yeah, cruises are really weird.
Yeah. I don't think that there was anything. We did try to like manifest an egregore on the cruise ship. We drew a little symbol on one of their books in the library, and we named her Rose, so that cruise ship might have a ghost named Rose. No. The Newkirks were there. Tenny was not.
Tenny got COVID.
Oh.
Yeah, and he couldn't go. Mop.
Does someone want to?
But Emily was still.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Are we still doing your taste thing?
Oh yeah.
Was it Girl Scout cookies?
Or was that the Girl Scout cookies?
No, it was Girl Scouts. It was also one time at Girl Scouts on a road trip, I threw up scrambled eggs, and then I proceeded to not eat eggs for like 10 years. And that was the only thing that I could think about is how I was like done. Because I think that on top of that, I like was not eating scrambled eggs. And then I have this very clear memory of watching the Buckeye egg video in high school, which I would not ever recommend watching. It is just like chicken torture and it's horrible. And then I swore off eggs again. And then and then I was just thinking about why I decided to start eating eggs again. Like, I can't remember what that moment was, but it had to have been a moment.
It must have been really good eggs.
Yeah. That's why now I'm trying to remember, like, what was the thing that finally I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat those again. I had that same thing with peanut butter. I, for a while, had sworn off peanut butter. And then one day, like, a switch just flipped and I was like, oh, I like peanut butter again. But there was like a decade in between.
Sometimes you need a break.
Yeah, apparently.
Maybe. What were you going to ask her?
Oh, I was wondering if we wanted to have someone go under and do some kind of contact session or something, or if does someone want to volunteer to do that?
What would we be contacting?
I'm not sure yet. I don't know if of the things that we've talked about, does anything come to the forefront? One thing I was just thinking about, and it's come up. I was thinking about, because Tenny got brought up. I was thinking about like tools that people use when they're investigating, and I think he uses like a old analog cassette player to like do EVPs. And I was thinking about that and the nostalgia of that, you know, like and I could think for myself, like I would resonate more with like older equipment and analog things. For some reason, that feels spookier to me. And I was wondering if it has to do with like the nostalgia of that, like the analog sound, you know, like the hiss of a cassette tape. Is that somehow related to why those feel like, to me, I'm almost like newer stuff, like newer equipment to me, I'm not as interested in. I'm personally not as drawn to, and I'm just wondering if it has something to do with my attachment to nostalgia. Because I think I have like I'm kind of stuck in the past a little bit. So I don't know. That kind of came up, bubbled up for me.
There's also the magnetic aspect of tapes and tape recorders as well.
Right.
I think that can play into that some too. I think that's interesting.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know if try to contact one of our future selves or the spirit of nostalgia. Maybe ask some questions about how we can to nostalgia about this. I don't know.
I have done something similar to this before, but we just didn't make our own spirit box. But my friend Charisse and I, a while back, we did like I know we talked about how it might be too personal, but I have done it before where the person going under is ask questions about themselves. And then, like, so if I went under, you'd say, what, you know, how does Amanda, like, what did Amanda at 10 years old like to eat or whatever, you know? And so we could talk to the person going under, or we could just like talk. That's what I've done before, but we could also talk to, I lost my train of thought. I don't know. That is what I'm used to, and then also nostalgia as a concept, like investigating the emotion. But for funsies, we could talk to anything. We could go to the mountain mud in trance and then talk to that space and time. You know, like, I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Would they have to have like a nostalgic connection to somebody who's involved, or by any like by anything? Like, could you do like Mnemosyne or the River
like
Lethe?
talk to the goddess, you mean? Is
or
that
the
what you're
River Lethe, or
yeah.
I think
like
so. I think my friend Celeste has talked about doing that with Archangel Michael before. So I don't see why not. I feel like we could do that. The goddess of memory, right? Is what
Yeah.
you that would be cool.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to do that? Go under? Anyone?
I don't know how to hook up to the spirit box that you made.
I can send you the link. I don't. It might be. It's really. I'll play it again just so you can hear it. It's pretty intense. But if you want to try that, I can give you the link to listen to it.
Or just any
thing
too would probably be fun.
You're gonna be personally blasted by like our Billboard Top 100.
You know what? Let's do. If you guys don't mind, I'll do it. But I want to do it with the spirit box that you made, because I think that is cool, and I've never had the chance to. So I think that would be sweet.
There's a lot of Hanson, and I don't know what else is on there. What else do people put? There's like
Spice Up Your Life,
Chippendale Rescue Rangers. But I'll send it to you.
Some Bright Eyes.
Sisters of Mercy.
Is Carmen Where in Time is Carmen?
Yeah, Rockapella.
Where in the World? Yeah.
Where the World is Carmen Sandiego. That was also a fun
I lost
game.
my mind. You asked for ideas and I like lost it.
No, those were perfect. And I'm glad you brought in some cartoons, because like you were saying, Amanda, like I think that there can be almost different kind of genres of nostalgia that are elicited based on, it's one thing to like hear a song and kind of be transported back to a thing versus like visual media. So yeah, I think it's fun to like elicit both of those things.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know about the rest of you, but I didn't have cable at all growing up, and so like I never had access to music videos, so songs did not have a visual component for me.
All I had was LimeWire and the radio.
I just wasn't allowed to watch things. Like I was allowed to watch the Food Network and Animal Planet. That was it.
So we're gonna do Mnemosyne?
Yeah, let's do that.
I was looking up because there's an Orphic hymn to her, but the only translations I can find are like there's terrible like colonialist, like 19th century classicist pseudo poetry, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
I have opinions.
Just dedicate all of the items that we brought tonight in the spirit of nostalgia to her as an offering, like, and just state our intention now as being, our offering to her.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I have this little figure. There's this amethyst here from like a play costume jewelry bracelet I had when I was a kid, and it ended up falling off. But a really dear friend of mine wire wrapped it for me in this like little child stick figure, and it's been on my altar and an altar box of mine for a very long time. It's really interesting because he had a kid who is my goddaughter, and I called it. She ended up being born on my birthday. But I don't know. It's really sweet. It just feels very childlike. So that's like one of the objects that I have for this evening. I love that, Alex, putting batteries in your Game Boy. I need to know what Game Boy it is, and if it's a color, what color it is. Please share.
Okay, Garrett, I got that, and it is able to play in my headphones. So
Okay.
I'm about to blast into space. I'm gonna turn you guys down a bit. I'll give a thumbs up in a second when I'm good to go.
How do you want to know when to come out, or do you care?
I have a pretty good internal clock. I'll give it like, I don't know, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's good.
Cool.
Jeremy, do you want to say like a opening hello or something of some kind?
Yeah.
Because you can pronounce her name.
Hey, you kids.
Hey.
Hey. We're here in the spirit of nostalgia, and
Into the Light is
we are dedicating the spirit of nostalgia that we've been generating here and all of these actions to Mnemosyne, one of the Titans, mother of the Muses, the goddess of memory, without whom
your kids,
without whom history would exist. Thank you for.
Some like to gossip.
I think that means I should shut up now.
Does anyone have any questions they want to open with? And if anyone in the chat wants to suggest a question. I'm curious.
I like peanuts.
Oh.
Thank you for sharing the snack report.
Yeah, snack report from Mnemosyne.
Do you experience loneliness when we move on? Moving on from memory when we forget.
It's like so weird. I'm trying to come back to it. Hold on. No.
Do you have anything to tell us?
I got you.
That's really sweet.
Some on the other side.
With whom are we speaking?
What if some on the other side was the answer to that? What if you were like a step ahead?
Yeah, it's like,
ooh.
Hey.
Did your pal at
You'll see on Monday?
Well, did the Oracle of Delphi get any of the postcards we sent? Did they tell you anything about our fan mail?
Do you have any advice for us?
You with the skateboard. I feel like it's like saying something about somebody who used to have a skateboard and there's some sort of memory around the skateboard.
That's me. I was thinking about that earlier. When I was a little kid, I was thinking about this memory tonight at WUFO when I had a hernia when I was a little kid, and someone gave me a skateboard for having to maybe go through surgery. That's really weird. I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking, and I almost brought it up. That's freaky.
What emotion of memory do you remind people of the most?
You can't say it alone. A flash of lightning.
Should we ask about the mountain mud for Amanda? Like, is there something that she needs to remember about that? Oh, she came out.
I'm coming out. Was that weird?
That was weird.
I like peanuts.
Yeah.
For me, I brought this up. For me, it was the skateboard thing was pretty significant for me. It was like this really. We were talking about something tonight. I can't remember what made me think of it. But when I was a kid, I was gonna have to get the surgery, and I got a skateboard. And I was thinking about this memory I got when I was a kid. I was like in kindergarten, and it was like a really scary time because I didn't know what that meant. And, yeah.
Sherlock. Was it because I was talking about getting Sherlock when I had surgery?
Oh, maybe, yeah. And so that's probably what it was.
You were thinking about it?
Yeah, and I didn't bring it up, but it was like this time I remember being in my driveway as a kid and like having this little tiny skateboard. And so when you brought that out, I got like chills because like I had definitely thought about this.
I feel like that was very cool and could be very cool, but also should be done in small doses because I felt like I started to disassociate for a second. I was whoa, like that sounded insane. So
I wonder what would happen if you slowed it down a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I feel like if you slowed it down, you would just want to like distort it a tiny bit if you possibly could.
Yeah.
Because I could kind of hear. Well, I will say though, I couldn't personally recognize any songs in it, and if you guys listen to it, like, but yeah, the speed of it and like the specific sounds of those songs was like crazy sounding. I literally like went into space for a second and was like, okay, I've got to come back down because what?
Right.
That was interesting. I do kind of feel like I wonder if is there any record of what offerings this goddess likes? Goddess of
frankincense for sure. So the Orphic hymns, each hymn is preceded by like an incense or a scent that's supposed to be burning while you recite the hymn, which is cool.
That is cool.
It's pretty much all frankincense and myrrh. So
not peanuts.
Not peanuts, no.
That's like the squirrel goddess.
Oh yeah, squirrels.
Mm-hmm. Garrett, who's your friend that you have with you?
Oh, this is just Teddy Ruxpin. He's not old, but when I was a kid, I was into him. This is not my personal one though.
It's your loner.
Yeah, totally. I've actually wanted to take it apart and make it like talk or something and do some kind of like the Ovulus or whatever, but have it come from Teddy Ruxpin.
like a boo buddy a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really interested in the Ovilus stuff, but I haven't had a chance to get to it yet.
The Ovilus?
Yeah.
In general?
Yeah,
really
just in general, I don't know. Yeah, but what do you think of it? Like, I know you've been working with it some, so.
Yeah, I mean, like any other piece of equipment, it has its faults and false, false results. And I have noticed that for whatever reason, like sometimes moving it around too much, like shaking it and stuff, does make it go off, which kind of concerns me for the programming of it. I'm like, how does that work when this is supposedly reading something else? But like any piece of equipment, I think that when it works, it works. Like if you ask intelligent questions and it has intelligent answers, it's really compelling. And I recently had an experience in these mines that I investigated in Tombstone, where we were asking any spirit that we were talking to. I have a cat hair in my eye. We were asking whoever we were speaking to go down to a lower part of the mine where we could not go down to. We were asking them to travel down there and look at the names written on the walls down there, because we had a mining guide with us who knew what those names were, and he didn't tell us. And so then we were asking the Ovilus to tell us what is written down there. And it said Maximum. And one of the names written down there is Maximo. And so that was incredibly compelling to me. And then throughout the night, throughout 2 nights, I continued to get Maximum on the Ovilus, I think 4 times. And at one point, somebody else's Ovilus also said Maximum. So that is extremely compelling to me. Wow. Also, I use it here in my apartment. I know what words come through most often here, and it's never Maximum. And so it's cool to see it work. I don't know. It was really compelling to me. I don't know how supposedly the spirits would be able to do that, but to think that they could use a word bank to the best of their ability like that is like really fascinating to me. And so I like it. I like anything with words and any ITC device. Like I think that again, you can like use it all. I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling, but equipment gets a bad rap. It gets like a bad reputation because, it ebbs and flows. You have the people in ghost hunting communities that like have every piece of equipment, and it's kind of ridiculous. And then you have the people who are like anti-equipment, and they're like, you don't need equipment at all. And it's like, I personally think you just need to know how to use any tool that you want. Like you can use literally anything as long as you don't let the tool itself control the communication, and as long as you keep on a straight path, like of like, I don't know, communication that makes sense, where, I see a lot of people with spirit boxes or with K2s or whatever who like let the reaction of the tools lead the investigation. And so if something the Ovilus says devil, and then they go, what do you mean devil? And then it says spoon, and it's like, oh, do you mean that you want to eat? Like they let it lead. And if you don't do that and you work against that and you continue to lead the communication, then I think it can be really compelling. But yeah, so long answer. But the short of it is I really like the Ovilus. It's very expensive though. And it's 3D printed, the one that I have, but they just, which I don't think is worth the price, but they just made a new one that is not 3D printed, and I'd be interested in that. And then also the Ovilus 3, that model is the best one in my opinion that I've used, but it's no longer in production, so it's incredibly expensive now. But the ones they're making now are the Ovilus 5 that Bill Chappell's making with Ghost Stop, Shawnee Ghost Stop. So
what is the premise? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is there a list of the word bank, and can you alter the dictionary / word bank? Because I have questions about that.
Yeah, there's not to my knowledge. There might be a list out there. I don't think there is, but there might be, but you definitely can't add your own in there. I wish you could. I think that would be more valuable. There's like 1,000 words in there though. And so And then also you just have to have like good discernment with tools like that, because it does say devil and it says it like that and it's ridiculous and it's not. And anytime that comes up, I'm not thinking there's a devil in here. There's not. It's just the machine just malfunctioning, in my opinion. But yeah, that is like one thing. I agree. Like the words that they choose, I'm like, why'd you choose them? Why aren't we at the point in technology where like that could be easily manipulated and changed? I don't know, but yeah. And it's like I think they're like $600 right now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
They're one of the more expensive tools. Yeah.
Have you seen Garrett's plant talker that uses the human phenomes?
Yeah.
Is that
Garrett,
the right word?
I think that's
Phonemes. You were close. Though.
Phonemes. Thank you.
I say it that way on accident sometimes.
It's the verbal dyslexia.
Yeah.
Does
That's like I just had a huge sync just then. I've been looking into this idea of like, sorry to interrupt. It was just like one of those like what moments. I've been looking into this idea of like gematria, like the practice of assigning each letter a number. So like the new Eon English Kabbalah that they use in Hellier, right? So each letter has a number, and then words that add up to the same value, like actually give insight into both of the words. Which is how like they, Indrid Cold is, I don't know. It's this whole thing. But I've been studying the esoteric aspects of the Greek alphabet. And in doing this, I'm thinking like, well, wouldn't it be cool to have a system of gematria like that, right? That is based on phonetics, so that it would actually be applicable to any language. Because the way it's done right now, it's very specific and exclusive to, and even perhaps a little appropriative of like the Kabbalistic tradition. But there was a Greek tradition too. And that's sort of the direction that I think is interesting at looking at. Long story short, I've been researching this stuff all day, and all day long, I have been studying up on phonemes and like what the values were within like the esoteric Greek alphabet system. And now I'm wondering like, well, there's a thread that sort of ties into the idea of, it's similar, I think, as a process like of breaking down these units of sound, like with the plant talker, it sounds like with the obelisks, and using those individual units to derive meaning that they might not have in a different context.
I should have mentioned too that the obelisk does have more than one function, more than the word bank, and it does have a phonetic aspect to it. I just don't use that very often because my brain farts. Like I'm like, literally what? Like I have a pea brain, so I have to use the word bank, but the phonetic part of it, I think you would really enjoy. Just
awesome.
Yeah.
I think when you said phonemes, I was like,
right.
I just recently got Siri Plough's new book, Querying the Runes, but this is making me think like all of the runes already have a phonemic association. So that's like one of the first things that I thought when I've been kind of pulling one a day like you do tarot cards, just like kind of getting to know them because I've never worked with them before. But my dad is from Denmark, and it feels like an appropriate path to explore now that I have a clear guide that is free of surprise neo-Nazis.
I hate when that happens.
But as I've been like tracking which ones I like pull, I have been kind of thinking like, at what point is there a secret message in here? Like, because that feels like a very possible outcome.
I absolutely. It is actually weird that we're talking about this because this line of thinking like just came up recently with a friend and I. there was a video on TikTok that went viral about this girl talking about using a Ouija board and talking in binary code. And my friend was like, look at this baloney. And I was like, hey, actually, though, spirit, like the other, does communicate in different ways. And I have had it communicate in binary code before when I was out on the peninsula. And I didn't know at the time how to interpret it. And like I was seeing it visually, and I would never have known how to interpret that. But with that said, I think that how do I say this? Like, not that I don't necessarily believe we have to do anything in order to connect with the other side, or that we have to be at a certain place in our life. But sometimes it does feel like the other communicates to us in the way that, like we were talking about activating points in our life. And like, I think sometimes it wants to communicate with us, but like, you were not meant to understand like runes yet. And now that's a new form of communication. And like, I think sometimes I think back to that binary code, like, it's like, hey, you don't know how to perceive this now, but like your future self will, or something like that. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it just communicating with the other side in different all sorts of different ways.
You said it was were you seeing ones and zeros or something? Is that?
Yeah, so like, we were doing the Estes, and the whole time we're trying to communicate with the spirit of Hallie Illingworth, but and I think they cut this out of the movie, actually, or maybe they showed like a split second of it where I'm sitting there and I'm saying, we are 8 is what I'm hearing. And also a huge part they cut out is that I'm visualizing these like beings, like not alien beings, like not like that, but like ghosts or something coming out of the lake. And it's a group of them, but they interact as one. And then later they say, we are 8. And then I see someone come up in, like, because my eyes are closed, I see someone come up to me and put their fingers in my face, and they just start going like this with their hands. And I didn't know. So on camera, I'm saying, I'm seeing like this move. And then I remember as I drove to the Airbnb that night, I was like, oh, I think that's binary code. But like, I have no record of like what actually they were saying at all. And also though, at the time too, I was not predisposed to that possibility. This would have been, that was the winter solstice 2020, or no, 2021, I think. And I didn't know as much as I know now. I didn't know that was even possible, you know? And so it's super interesting. And that person that went viral on TikTok was talking about how the Ouija board spirit or whatever was talking to her in binary code. And I'm like, okay, either she did really good research and knows that this is a possibility. She also talked about them calling themselves 7, I think. She either did good research or she actually experienced this. And I'm like, and I'm not opposed to the Ouija board being just another tool like anything else. Like, and I don't poo-poo it because of, you know, our micro movements and the fact that we're moving it. I don't think that matters. I think we're channeling at that point, you know. But anyway, super interesting stuff.
It's a analog spirit box, basically. I mean, I feel like the first time I ever captured an EVP, I still have doubts about whether it's my own mental projection that got recorded. You know, I'm not saying anything out loud necessarily, but it is like on the recording itself. So who knows what we can influence with these things in general. But I don't know. I feel like that's really fascinating to hear binary code from the other side. There are a lot of different ways that things communicate with us, whether it's through imagery or direct words, lights.
I think that too. I should say, like, I perceive it also that the trickster archetype or trickster behavior in general is like ever present in the paranormal field of research, and that it is constantly trying to prevent us from getting to a certain point, so long as we are not sacrificing, for lack of a better word, sacrificing our ego in some way. So like, I always think that like, as long as I'm filming something for consumption from other people, I will never actually, like, the trickster is there in my research, constantly preventing me from reaching the ultimate answer of whatever question I'm asking. Does that make sense? Like, so that's why things happen when, I think some of the most amazing things happen when I'm not able to film, period. Like, and it's just a thing that I just experience.
It's the blurry photos.
Is it the trickster preventing you from doing something, or is it a kind of trickster element that is saying, you're not doing this right, and I'm going to keep like showing up and like dropping some Acme anvils in the way of you until you figure out that this thing isn't for public consumption?
Yes, that's actually exactly.
Yeah.
You put that really well. That's what I think it is. I think it's kind of showing up being like, you're not supposed to do it for other people. So then at this point in my like career, in what I do, I recognize that I'm doing it only to a certain level. And that for me, my most revolutionary research is done privately. And I think will always have to be, or maybe written down in a book someday or something. But like, I don't think that it's intended to be filmed, like, or to be shared for entertainment in any capacity, personally.
Exactly.
Which is a crazy thing to say as someone who makes videos.
I just watched the movie that you were in, the Surrounded by Spirits, and but there's something you wrote about it afterwards, where after it was done being filmed, this not in the movie at all, like you had this experience with I'm sorry, what's her name?
Becky.
Yeah, right. And you like had some experience, and then that experience that happened that you wrote about is like the most wild thing that happened.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to talk about it, but that was to me.
That is really fascinating. Exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Right.
So we have this like 7-day long investigation of this entire town, Brownsville, Pennsylvania. It goes sideways, to put it nicely. It goes in a weird direction. Then once everyone leaves, because there's like 7 of us there, everyone leaves but Becky and I. And the end of the documentary and the end of the investigation is that we close this door. We find this door in a basement of a tavern. We close the door ritualistically and supposedly lock all the spirits up in there. It wasn't my choice, but like we put the spirits back in the door and lock it. Becky and I, the next night, once everyone's gone, we're not filming. We're walking to this bridge at night to look at the river. And as we're walking there, also this town is like nearly abandoned. There's no one there. We walk down this completely empty, dark road, and this guy comes out from behind a building, like down this alley. He comes out, he walks towards us, and he goes, "Did you close the door?" And we were like, "What?" And I remember scrambling for my phone, because I'm very much like a film it person. Like I'm like film, because I want to. For me, in that moment, I was like, am I losing my mind? I want to look back on this. And so I pull up my phone and I managed to catch, we don't answer the man. He's just standing there watching us walk by. And I catch like this tiniest video, like shaky video of showing him, so that like he was real. That definitely happened. And then like also we have all of these synchronicities with lights. We try to go have Thai food at one point at the end of our trip. The entire block of lights go out after an entire week of like light synchronicities and stuff. And it's just like all of that stuff that Becky and I experienced that was synchronous or like any kind of weird phenomena, none of it was filmed. None of it made it into the movie. None of it, no one knows about it. It's like just in Becky and I's brain and a thing we experienced. And I truly believe that that was like, that it goes hand in hand. Like we experienced it because we weren't, and like, and also we weren't supposed to film that part either, you know?
Yeah,
so,
it's not for that. It's for different reasons. And I think that that's why it happens. At least that's my personal philosophy on it. Like it's to fuel the inner awe, the inner curiosity, the inner fire.
It's
I
what
also
we used to say is that we already know for sure that something is true or not true. And so that's why we don't try to debunk anything like on Liminal Earth. Like when people submit stuff, like it's either true or it's not true. Like we know that. And that's what we're not interested. Like we don't care about that. Like that's not what's interesting. What's interesting is how it impacts you. Like the person having the experience. Like that's what we're interested in.
The humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do try though too, I'll say, I try to find like a middle ground because I do think that there's power in, well, obviously there's power in community, and like community is such an important thing right now more than ever, to foster healthy, safe communities. But like, there's something to, like, sometimes I kind of try to trick the trickster part of what we're talking about. And like, that's where I get into eliciting nostalgia on cue. Or I try to do synchronicity experiments to try to make synchronicities happen so that I can pinpoint moments of strangeness, dig into them, and pull out paranormal phenomena so that I can do that and then give it to the public. And then at that point, I say, I don't care what you do with this. You know, like I kind of tried to release my old ghost hunter days of being like, I'm going to present this to you so that you believe in ghosts. I don't care that people believe in ghosts or not. But I think that I don't know, it's like kind of a mirror to humanity to present to them things that are unexplainable and bizarre. And I think it's like, I have this feeling in me that it's extremely important, you know, and as I get older, I feel like it's like incredibly important for me to find ways to present these things to the public while also working with the other side and understanding the push and pull of that.
Yeah, it adds another aspect to how we understand and process and hold our own existence when you can do that. And there is an importance to that. I think it sits differently than the like show business side of things, which you guys unfortunately went through, and you're surrounded by spirits aspect of like tension and interpersonal, like needing something from the camera. But it's one of the reasons why I think I have chosen like the overlap of trauma and the paranormal to gel together, because I feel like there's something where a lot of people who have the paranormal experiences can relate to aspects of like spaces in their life where it comes about. There's bound to be a way to like replicate these things, not just in paranormal investigation, but with the like touch points within ourselves. And if we can figure out what those are, whether it's necessarily like scientifically founded or not, like anecdotal evidence is just as important, in my opinion. If a group of people come together and they're like, hey, when I'm in a dissociative state, like I pick up on these things, or hey, when I'm experiencing like euphoria and joy or nostalgia, or if I'm experiencing like heavy depression or these deep emotions and I see like these types of things, like, okay, these are different pathways that we can replicate and have these things happen through. That I feel like also has more of a humanistic touch and can put power in the hands of the average person who is interested or intrigued in these topics to see for themselves how they can replicate it and do it in a safe way to investigate. To have that confirmation of like, oh, I'm not like legitimately crazy. These things are actually real, at least in my own personal experience. They're happening. Or, you know, if it has been more negative in a way growing up, like maybe there's an aspect of positive that we can cultivate now too, to have these things come about. And there is something to like learning about that and documenting that and sharing that and experimenting in that way with other people, that I feel like it's a service to the extended community. I know it's like 10:18. Like, sorry, we're going over.
Yeah, I think it's time to.
Well said, though.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Well, yeah, I think everybody's kind of fading a little bit. I know.
Thanks.
We should go outside.
For
Yeah.
everyone, but
Thanks, Amanda, for coming on
Yeah.
tonight
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This
and
was
hanging out.
fun.
Yeah.
yeah,
I really enjoyed the experiments a lot.
Yeah.
That was super cool. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, needless to say, anytime you want to come back,
Yeah, if you want to go to the Enchanted Forest. Or
Yes.
what's it? Enchanted what? Enchanted, is that what it's called?
Forest.
Enchanted Forest,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good to see you, and thanks everyone. And I think we're gonna come back in like 2 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Yeah.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
Got
Have
Bye,
a good
everyone.
day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.